Let me start recording. We are recording. All right. So Rachel and I kind of are taking the lead tonight. Courtney said y'all are tired of her, which we know is not true because she's over there cooking. We see you. Don't even hide. And so Rachel and I are going to kind of take the lead tonight. If Rachel doesn't have anything to open up with, we kind of tossed around the idea of letting you guys actually take the floor. We want to hear from you. We want to know, what have you got value from, starting way back from the beginning. So several weeks and months ago, what have you guys gained? What kind of value have you taken from all three of us? What kind of techniques have you actually applied to situations? What obstacles have you faced where unpacking the stones? See, we were talking about making room for the abundance. And if you're not making room, like, it's not going to fit, right? So I love that you said that, because that's sort of bouncing off what Rachel talked about last week. And although I wasn't available, like, to be on, I went back and watched it like 3 times and cried and just sobbed all 3 times. So unpacking those stones, if you're not removing all the junk, you're not going to have room for the good stuff to come in. So I'll let Rachel fill in there, but we unmute yourself, type in the chat that you have something to share. Tell us any obstacles maybe where normally you would have that negative fixed mindset, where now you're working more towards growth. So I'll pass it off to Rachel, see if she has any little plugs she wants to toss in. And then we're going to let you guys interact with us and tell us what you have gained from us so far.
Hey, everybody. I know it is Monday. I appreciate everybody getting on. And
hold on. Is it not closing?
Oh, I think Patty's unmuted. Not to call you out, Patty. Thank you. Okay, so I appreciate all the awesome love and support from last week, and I'm just so happy that I was willing to add just some kind of quality in for everybody. I really just wanted to go over what, it's so chaotic in the background. I'm sorry, guys. I wanted to go over what really is helping drive us this week. And, oh man, we got sibling rivalry going on behind the computer. I'm sorry. Be nice. So I really wanted to go over, like, what changes in our lives have we implemented in the last few weeks. I can't even think with kids. I'm sure everybody can relate. It's World War V in here. Oh yeah. You know what, Krista? I'm going to pass it to you for 1 second. I'm so sorry to do this. I have a naked toddler. Sorry, guys.
That's prepared. Always our favorite, the naked toddlers. So, like she was saying, what things have you kind of gotten a hold of the last few weeks? I have toddlers that see, we all have these naked toddler problems. Aside from unpacking the stones, let me go back and read the chat. I saw a few other things. Unpacking the stones, that is definitely one of my favorites. Making room, getting rid of the junk, the negativity, telling self 5 positive things every morning. I love that you said that, because that's something that we talk about as a team often, and we don't do it probably as often as we should. But that's something I like to do. Or if I come upon a negative situation or just something that seems to be distracting me, thinking of trying to, like, shed that bright light, because sometimes all you can see is the darkness around you, and sometimes all you can see is the toxic situation or the negative situation. So trying to focus more on the positive. There's always a positive in every situation. It could always be worse. I promise you. There's going to be things that you face that you feel like, this is the end, this is it for me, this is, I'm never going to get out of this hole. But I promise you, it can always be worse. So focusing on the positive in that situation. You could have 10 kids. I mean, there is always, see, Rachel, you can always have 10 kids running around naked. Okay. So there's always a bright side to every situation. Did you want to add in?
Sorry, Emily, can I say something real fast?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so just a moment ago, before Rachel started talking, you had mentioned about how there's like stones in front of like a situation or blocking you from that. That is really crazy, because yesterday's service at church that's what our pastor talked about, was that just like how,
You're unmuted, Emily. You're muted.
Okay, I don't know what happened. Emily got remuted. I think a lot of people were, I don't know what everybody's faith is. I try not to bring faith. It is a big deal for me. Faith really drives my whole world. So I've had a lot of testing of my limits in my life. And of course, he has the loudest balloon ever. So I really have had a lot of testing of my faith. And when I say faith, I don't always mean faith in God. I think sometimes we have to just have faith in ourselves. I think we all know that we can be our number one biggest block. And, you know, last week when I really talked about creating the space for abundance to show up, and I really feel like, you know, sometimes we think that we have to go all or nothing. And, you know, I think one thing that we really have to focus on is we can't wake up one morning and pretend that we're this whole other person, because we're going to burn out like that. And that was last week. I really wanted to talk about burnout. But for me, you know, when you try to do all the things and you juggle and you get burnt, we talked about burning the wick at both ends, and we've talked about so many awesome topics. And I know Courtney's talked about a lot, and Krista, and I absolutely love the mindset Zooms. And I just wanted to know, like, you know, are there small little changes that you've done that you've celebrated for yourself? Because I think we need to really celebrate even the small wins. Like if you got up earlier and you know, you RCM'd more people, I think that you need to learn to celebrate that. It's kind of like you know how some people, you know, their lives look more exciting than others. And I don't know if I mentioned this last week, and everybody can remind me if I did, but like how one kid's birthday party is more exciting than another kid's birthday party, or how somebody, you know, you see things in the world like, oh, everybody's celebrating their baby and my baby doesn't seem important. We have to create the excitement and the wins in our life, and we have to celebrate, because if we don't learn to celebrate our wins, even on a small capacity, you know, no one will. We make it important for ourselves. And I think it's so important to celebrate, even if it seems silly. Like, hey, I got up today. That might be a huge win for you. Hey, I RCM 20 people today. That might be a huge win. And I think, like, if you're feeling overwhelmed with all the things, you know, I like the idea of taking small steps and celebrating the win over something that's doable, you know, something that's actually a change that you can really implement that really impacts your productivity. So if you feel less of a mom or less of a dad, or, you know, take an extra 5 or 10 minutes or whatever it is for you, or eat that one healthy meal. Or if you're, you know, if you're struggling in your messenger, then do that first thing in the morning. And I've really been pushing that myself, implementing those things for my own life. Being on this mindset Zoom is really helping me keep myself accountable. And I really think that that's important, because I think we all need to keep ourselves accountable for our actions. But really, more than accountability, it's celebrating. You know, life can be, oh, I got the dishes done. No, you got the dishes done today. You know, hallelujah, the dishes are done. It's silly, but I mean, come on. Especially Tracy, I'm sure in your house with 10 kids, when the dishes are all done, someone is celebrating. At least in my house, I do. Yeah, dude. Yeah, exactly. So a lot of paper plates at Tracy's house. That'd be my strategy. It's a lot of wasted trees. But I think we need to like really have laundry. Yes, laundry. I am now teaching my older kids to help do the laundry, and I teach them work smarter, not harder. Yeah, it's a glorious time. We have to learn to celebrate those small wins in our life, even if they seem silly. And I think we need to like believe when, like, that positive magnetic energy thing. Now, I don't have all the fancy terms, and I'm sure Court can probably halfway through choose here chime in, but and the guys, I have not read all the books, but I know that if you walk around with a positive energy and a positive space, and you know, your family's going to feel that, you're going to feel that, instead of going, oh, did you clean your room? wow, hey, you picked up, your kids are going to think you're crazy. You picked up your laundry today? Dude, that's awesome. And they're going to think you're nuts. Okay. Like my kids, they think I'm crazy. But just learning to celebrate the positive things and not always focusing on the negative things can really help just shift your mindset to be in that positive space. And you can really learn to grow from there. So my biggest question for everybody is, you know, what are the small changes that you've implemented that you really need to celebrate? And I think everyone should share those tonight. I think everyone, no matter how silly you think it is, um, if you wash your hands every time you go to the bathroom, you should be washing your hands in a COVID world. But if you want to put that in the chats, I would encourage it. So no matter how silly it is, I would love to see what everybody, yes, I wake up early, thrive, devotional, pray, get the kids up. I clean my house. Those are awesome. Yes. I think that everybody really needs to sometimes just take a break and make those small wins. And I've noticed with a lot of people whose lives, hey, Mikkel mopped her floors. Mikkel, I haven't mopped my floors in 2 weeks. Don't tell anybody. My 6-year-old looked crazy at me like I was crazy when I told her, thank you for sweeping the floors, even though I go behind her, but it's the praise. It is. That's the one thing with potty training kids on the spectrum. The more you push in your negative, at least with my 5-year-old, the harder the battle's gonna get. If he got close to the potty and went on the floor, we have to celebrate that we were almost there. Wow, you guys are awesome. I wake up early and do yoga and self-development before even looking at my phone. Jordan, that's awesome. You got me beat. Every morning I wake up, my eyes peek open and I look at the phone like, hello? Those are hashtag goals. Cleaned out my whole closet today. Yes. Went to the gym 6 days a week. Oh, we're going too fast. Sorry, Haley, I didn't read your whole comment. I got some new stuff for our coop. I got the kids to school on time. I got on top of my content in my Bible study today. I gave the babies back. Y'all are awesome. I'm not just saying that to be positive, but I really mean it. You know, I think even in our atmosphere of our houses, just creating that positivity. And I think we really need to just work on choosing to make those changes and those shifts of creating. Not only are we choosing, it's like, you know, last week we talked about that there's an abundance of blessings coming in your life. If you don't walk around believing that and hoping for that, then you're not going to see that show up. If you're walking around upset, like, oh, why didn't I get that extra person? Or, oh, you know, I think there's a lot to be said in that whole, that, what is that awesome statement where it was like, help people, you know, you're focusing on helping others and not what you can gain. And there's like, my brain, I'm trying to read messages and talk and I'm not the best multitasker. Oh, my chat just updated. There was 8 messages that weren't there. It's surely been a time blocking, so things have been here have changed life and the knowing I can. Yes. I wake up early getting work and being more happier and motivated when I wake up. Even if there's something negative, I tell myself I'm awake, I'm up, and I think positive vibes all morning. Yes. You know, I think the biggest thing for me in my whole life has been choosing to be happy. Even though a gallon of milk was spilled on the floor, even though I maybe wasn't very productive today, just choosing to be happy, choosing and celebrating. You know, you guys are awesome. Thank you so much for sharing all those things. You know, and I really think that what they were talking about with tweaking and changing different things in our day, we were talking about time blocking and how time blocking can, you know, we have to make it work for us. We're not working for the schedule should be working for us, and it should be creating the best schedule for us. But I really think, like, and I've heard it a million times in so many Zooms now, but really like taking in the data. Okay, like Courtney's been saying, like, this didn't work. So what can I do to add, or what can I do to just, not getting defeated by it, but really you know what? I'm so glad I know that this didn't work. At least I won't do this for another, 10 weeks. This didn't work, and that is okay. We're going to create something that we're going to tweak it. We're going to shift it. We're going to move it around and really, really work from there. Oh, you guys are so awesome. So I really just wanted to encourage everyone. Sorry, I got my little notepad over here. If you know what I'm looking at, I'm just looking at my notes because today's a note day. Yeah, I really just want to encourage everyone to demonstrate and just like celebrate the quick wins in life. And by celebrating those, by choosing those, by tweaking what's not working for you, and just creating a space of happiness and really believing that that space is there for you, and having a hope and understanding that it's life really shows up the way that you create it. You create life the way that you want it to. And if you want to be frustrated that your kids aren't listening, then you're going to be frustrated that your kids aren't listening.
And adding on to what she was saying, being thankful for the small things, because just like her, I'm really big in my faith. And how can you expect, if you're not thankful and you're not showing up for the small things, how on earth do you think you're going to get the big things? So that's always something I'm really passionate about. You see people complain about the smallest things, sometimes the smallest hiccups, and you're like, if you can't be thankful sometimes that you woke up this morning and you did get yourself ready, maybe you didn't get yourself ready, but you got your kids ready and you got them where they needed to be. You fed yourself a little bit, even if it was just a bowl of cereal. Be thankful for that, because it like I said earlier, it could truly be worse. So if you're not thankful in the small things, I promise you'll never get the big things, because you have to appreciate and you have to value those small things. You can't say, well, just like in our business, well, my paychecks are only $10. Boo hoo. Every week it's just $10. Well, guess what? You're probably not going to be happy with 100 either, or 1,000. You're always going to be negative about it. So you really need to grab a hold of that and appreciate those small wins, those small tokens, because you'll just never be thankful. You'll never be thankful if you can't be thankful for that little seed. You're never going to be thankful for the whole tree. And that's just always how I've looked at things. And I think a lot of that kind of ties into this.
Absolutely. I'm just going to chime in real quick, just because you said the word seed, and it sparked something in me that I listened to today, and it said something like, whatever, just how we say, like, oh, the grass is greener, on the other side. It's always the grass is greener where you water it and where you tend it. But it's just one of those things where it's like, and I've talked about this before, so it's pretty much the same analogy. So if people have heard me saying, are you feeding the good wolf or the bad wolf? I use that a lot with a lot of my kids when we did behavior therapy, and you're always feeding one or the other. I think a lot of people like to try to think that they're feeding some kind of neutral wolf, like they're feeding some kind of fluffy bunny or something, and they're just like, oh, it's neither. It's like, no, you're always feeding one or the other. Your thoughts and your actions are giving life. That's what the food is. They're giving life to one. And what happens when you feed a dog, or if you feed an animal, you feed a human, it gets bigger, gets stronger. Whichever one you feed is the one that's getting stronger. If you're constantly giving into those negative thoughts, if you're giving into those thought patterns or those thought distortions, like we've talked about before, if you're allowing that narrative that other people have given you to become your own narrative, then you are giving life to, and you're feeding the bad wolf. So you're making that one stronger. Guess what? When you do that, it comes back for more, right? They always say, like, don't feed the animals. Why? Because they come back, because they know that that's where food comes from. So it's the same thing. If you're constantly feeding one of those animals, you want it to be the good one. You want it to be the good wolf, because that one's going to keep coming back for more. It's hungry. It wants to be fed. So is the bad wolf. But the bad wolf comes and brings destruction, because what happens when you don't feed it? It finds things to feed on, right? So I heard another thing today that's very similar to that word picture, but it's like, are you giving life to seeds or weeds? Seeds grow and sprout life. Weeds grow on their own and take life. So a lot of us are trying to plant these gardens in, like, these beautiful flowers and whatever in a garden full of weeds. And that's exactly what giving life to these thoughts look like. So Rachel and Krista were talking a lot about finding the little stuff. We call it hunt the good stuff, right? If you've ever worked with kids, they say that a lot, hunt the good stuff, okay? So when you're reflecting on your day, it's easy to figure out the things that went wrong, right? The squeaky wheel always gets the grease. It's easy to find the bad kid in your class. It's easy to find the bad things that happen in your day. It's easy to find the one asshole you work with, right? It's all the bad things are easy to find. We're just wired that way, right? That's giving life to weeds. They grow wildly. They don't need help. I don't know how many of you guys have gardens. They don't need help. I don't remember ever planting weeds. Okay. I didn't go to Lowe's. I didn't get weed seeds and plant them. Like they just grow anyway. Negative thoughts grow anyway, whether you give them life or not. They're going to grow. We have to combat them. We have to pull them out from the root. The more you do that, the less they grow back. Same with your negative thoughts. The less life you give it, the more you pluck it out from the root, the less they come back. Okay, the less you feed that bad wolf, the more it's like, I'm not getting fed here. I'm gonna go find somewhere else to get food. I'm starving, I'm hungry, gonna go somewhere else. So find the things. If we've talked about this before, if there's one of us, one of the people you work with, right, that you can't stand, that every time they pop up in the chat, you're like, hi dear, right? Like you're just super annoyed by them. And it's okay. We all have them. We don't mesh with everybody. It's okay. Okay. But I want you to say one life-giving thing about them, one positive thing. I want you to find that one seed, right? So if all they do is talk in the chats, all they do, and you're like, oh my gosh, it's never anything productive. It's like ding, 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 all day long. Like, oh my God, right? That's easy. It's easy to find those things. Those are weeds. Weeds are growing. What do you have to do? You have to find the seed. Well, they're talkative. They love people. They must be great at sharing the Thrive experience. They love community. People like this build our tribe, right? Like those are seeds. Your day is really crappy. Go back, right? If you're like, oh my gosh, I had to clean all the floors and wash all the dishes and blah, blah, blah. You know who doesn't have to clean floors and wash dishes and do all that stuff? Homeless people. Right? People who are homeless, they don't have dishes to wash. Do you know how thankful they would be to wash a dish? Do you know how grateful they would be to have a floor to vacuum or a bed to make? So things that we take for granted, other people would kill for. I have children. One of my best friends doesn't and has killed to have children most of her life. So when I'm complaining about my children and the messes I have to clean up, she's begging for that. I would kill to clean up after a child, right? Just certain things to shift your perspective. You can say, at least I have a child to tuck in at night. There are children who are ripped away too early from parents that, again, would die to tuck them in at night. So there are lots of things that at the end of the day, we can say, you know what? I had this. I'm grateful for that. And yeah, does it seem like a stretch? Does it seem like one of those fake it till you make it, whatever? You can sit there and tell yourself and give yourself, again, that life. You're just trying to validate weeds. I have heard far too many times people just say, well, can't I just be human? And can't I just bitch about it for a second? Well, here's the thing. You have about 5 seconds because those weeds take root really quick. They don't need permission to grow. They just grow, right? I've heard that a lot. You know, I know Alicia has, especially as leaders, and people come to you and they're like talking about stuff, right? And they're like, well, I thought this was my safe place. I thought I could just come in here. I thought you were my people. And I thought that, and it's like, no, we are here to listen, but our job as friends is to say, hey, brother, hey, sister, your garden's looking a little weedy. Like let's help you. Let's help weed your garden, right? I see you trying to plant roses, but they're getting strangled. Let's rip out some of those weeds. And some people want to give life to them. Why? It's comfortable. I don't know. Maybe it gives this illusion of a lush garden because they're like, wow, look how green it is. Right? Yeah. and anything only ever grows this high, and it strangles anything that tries to be beautiful and seek out the sunlight. But you're always giving life to one of them. And we use this excuse of like, well, I'm just being human right now. Oh, I'm just doing whatever, right? Whatever you tell yourself. But if you were, think about it, if you were trying to give yourself permission to feel miserable, or try to give yourself permission to live in this negative space, there's something wrong, right? I'm totally here for, I need 5 seconds to say it, but then here's my plan to do something different, okay? So if you come up in my inbox, and that's why I don't get a lot of them, if you come into my inbox and you need to bitch about something, I'm all good for that. Come in, do your 5 seconds. I'm gonna say, what are we gonna do about it? Or how is that working for you? Doesn't look like it's working, okay? Pitying yourself, crying yourself to sleep, wishing people would change, wishing for this, wishing for that. That's not working. What are we gonna do? Well, I don't know. I just, what are we gonna do? Right? Wallowing clearly isn't helping. Sitting in your garden full of weeds going, oh, I have weeds. Yep, you do. We need to fix that. So giving life to seeds or weeds, which one? And it really all is just a mind over matter thing. Okay. It really is just we talk about this all the time. It's reframing. We've talked about this before in those how to counteract those thought distortions, reframing, right? Oh my God, I had to wash like a million dishes today. Or you can say, I'm so thankful I had dishes to wash. It means we had full bellies. It's reframing. Okay. So find a way to restate it. Find a way to, you can even say certain things. Be like, I can't find a way. It's like, so-and-so called me the name today. Okay, well, guess what? I'm so thankful I have an opportunity for self-growth. I'm so thankful I have an opportunity to look deeper inside and say, that's not true. I have another opportunity to practice self-love. So you really got to think sometimes, because I think a lot of times we just want to be like, nope, just a negative situation, just is nothing to do about it. And we give too much life to that. We've talked all the time about everything is a choice. How you feel right now is the result of the way that you've lived up until this moment, the life that you've given to things, the weeds or seeds that you have allowed to grow. Now, a lot of people confuse that with that you allowed those things to happen. You allowed those things to occur. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is the way you feel right now is a result of the choices you've made to feel about it. Someone could have called me a name 2 hours ago. How I feel right now is a result of the things I've chosen to feel about it. Because they said it, it's done. Now the ball's in my court. What I do with it is my choice. Someone says something to you, right? Someone gives you that narrative. You guys said the rock one was one of your favorites. Someone gives you that rock. What do you do with it? So many of you walk around with it and go, oh, okay. And you just put it in the backpack and carry on. No, you put it down. It wasn't your rock to begin with. Why are you holding it? Why are you carrying it? Why are you considering it your burden to walk around with? So understanding what you're giving life to.
Yeah, I love that. I hope I'm not cutting you off. I've been practicing shifting my mindset for, my son is signing help me in the background. Sorry. I'll help you, buddy. Hold on. So I've been practicing shifting my mindset, and it started, and Laura mentioned in the chat earlier about writing those things up that people said to you when you were little, and how she put them up, and it really has helped her like really reflect on that. And I did want to say that that's definitely something that I have really chosen to look at. And I've been shifting, I know, help. Oh, guys, he's helping. You're doing a good job. He's nonverbal, so this is him yelling help. That's a good job. My father was abusive when I was a kid. and he didn't, it is what it is. But I chose to forgive him and had a conversation before he passed away. And I was lucky enough to have that opportunity. I know some people don't always get those opportunities. I started shifting my brain from being angry at the things he did wrong to realizing that that's all he could do with the resources that he had. And I then decided to be grateful for what he was there for what he did provide. And, one of those things about the statements that people say to you, they're so impactful to us, especially as littles, that we think that they define us, and they really do become ingrained in the brain. And one statement my mom says to me regularly is, "It's just brain neurons firing." And I was like, oh. And I get mad, and she's like, "Girl, it's just brain neurons. Your brain's supposed to do that. It's protecting you, but it's not helping you. So just realize that your brain's just responding, and you have to be the one to go, this is just me because I'm goofy. I'm not today, Satan." Walked into Costco last week and there was like all the pastries, and I was like, "Not today, Satan. Those negative mind, not today." And it's just that practice of choosing that constantly every day, all day long. And it takes time, and it takes a lot of effort. And I have to change this kid's pull up, but yeah, I absolutely love that. And actually seeds were planted this weekend in my family. And when y'all mentioned seeds, I was like, yes. So that just ties into what's going on in my life. But I'm gonna mute myself because he's freaking out in the background.
Just like she said, sometimes calling out those negative feelings or calling out those things that are hurtful. There's a lot of power in that. Just like she said, maybe there wasn't abuse in my childhood, but there wasn't a lot of positivity spread sometimes. And I guess more so, you can't do that. That's not how things work. You're going to do things how we expect, and you're going to go to school and you're going to do X, Y, Z. Maybe didn't allow me to be as passionate about the things I wanted, not because there was ill intentions, but because that's, like she said, that's all they had. They weren't well off. It was mom and dad go to work, you take care of little brother. This is just your life. This is what we have. You can't go do the things you want to do right now. And I don't fault them for that. But sometimes when it's brought up and thrown in my face now as an adult, see, you didn't get to do that. You didn't get to do that. You had to follow this path. And now that I'm getting to do more of what I want to do and what I'm passionate about, I don't get to throw it in their face per se, but I get to call that out. There was something said the other day that was really negative in my face, and I just had to call it like it was. Not to be ugly and hateful, but it was just that I have power over this situation because I just called you out for being a negative influence, and look at where I am now. And they had to kind of revert their what they were saying and be like, wow, like she has come so far. And we're proud of that, that it makes you stronger sometimes going through those things and having those experiences. So don't always, sometimes you have to give those negative situations credit because they make you who you are today. So don't always look at it as a bad thing, because growth can sometimes be hurtful. Dakota, I know you're going through a lot. You have over the last several months, but imagine where you're going to be, where you're going to get to stand one day and say, I came through that, and I was able to influence so many other people. Being in my faith, sometimes I feel like I don't go through trials for self, it's for other people. And I find a lot of, I'm trying not to get emotional. I find a lot of it gives me a lot of hope knowing that sometimes it's maybe not for me, it's for someone else. And sometimes you just have to fight through it. You may not even get to see that blessing come to pass, but someone else might get to. So, Courtney, did you have anything else?
Yeah, no, I love that. When you think about the trials you're going through, we tend to, as humans, internalize everything so egocentric. We tend to think everything is about us. We tend to think that people are doing things because they don't like us, because they hate us, because we did something. Again, it's very egocentric. How selfish is that to assume that you're altering the way that they behave and think that's selfish. We don't, I don't want to say like, we don't mean that much to people, but sometimes it's like, oh, I guarantee they're thinking about this. Like when you walk into a space and you have anxiety about them judging you and looking at you, that's all ego. That is you assuming that they actually care. And I don't mean that in like a caring way. I mean like that you would take up space in their brain, that you mean so much to them in that way, that they would take time away from what they're doing to think negatively about that. Maybe they are, maybe they're not, but who are you to say that they are? Right. And it's a very egocentric way to think. And that just reverts back to the level of emotional intelligence that we cultivate, because that egocentric thinking is a very so that's a stage that toddlers go through, that egocentricity, which is everything's about me, 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 me. Like if we're all in the car and going to the store, everybody's going to the store because they just assume whatever they're doing, everyone else is doing. Right. And so it's almost selfish to think that the way people are thinking and behaving has anything to do with you. They are operating based on their own abilities or inabilities. They are operating based on their own emotions, based on their own level of emotional intelligence. So for you to assume that you have that power over them, well, that's just misplaced power. And you're giving that power to them that they don't rightfully have, and they can't hold it. So you're just like giving it away when you need it for yourself. Clearly, you need that power for yourself, and you need to have that inner voice and just be like, whether they're doing something because of what I did or said or I'm not doing or whatever, blah, blah, is not within my control. I can only, well, again, what's the only thing you guys can control? Your thoughts, your behaviors, feelings, all that, right? So one of the things that we used to say to a lot of the kids that we worked with was, you're thinking like a caveman. So we always went back to the triune brain, right? The primal brain is right here. Back, you can't see what I'm doing, but the back of your neck, right? Primal brain, mammal brain, forebrain, which is your human brain, the most astute part of your brain, right? When you are operating on that fear, that fight or flight, you're operating right here in your primal brain. You're being like a caveman, right? You're thinking just on instinct. How do I survive? And so sometimes we would say that, like Rachel's mom said, oh, those are just neurons firing. That's all they are. They start here, they get triggered here, they flow up here to your feelings, and then they hopefully come over here to where you can think and process them. But a lot of you guys keep it here and here, and you don't ever come up here to really kind of say, this is like that part where it's like the levee, right? For those of you guys who live in flood zones, right? My Louisiana people know. It's like the levee that keeps the floods from coming over and destroying everything. Without the levees, what happens? Again, a lot of people in Louisiana know. Without them, that's what happens, is there's massive flooding and destruction. And that's what happens kind of in your brain. When you don't bring things up here to rationalize and bring that kind of forethought to it, you have all of these, a flood of emotions is coming. You live in a flood zone. You know that. So why haven't you built them up? Why haven't you built the levees, right? If you live in Florida on the coast and your house isn't on stilts, well, you don't have a house. You won't in a couple months when hurricane season hits, right? Why do they build their houses like that? Why do people in flood zones have specific irrigation systems the way they do and whatever, right? They know it's coming. Floods of emotions are going to come. Trials are going to come. Why are you walking around so unprotected as if like they're not going to? We are all so caught off by bad days. Why? We have them so often. Like, I'm not saying to operate as if a bad day is going to come, but being prepared with those skills, those coping skills, so that bad days don't catch you off guard, right? There are some emotions that might catch you off guard, absolutely, but they're not going to completely derail you because you're going to have those skills, right? Floods are going to come. Some water might reach over the levee, but it's not near as much destruction as if that wasn't there. And so that's what this part of the brain does, is it like creates that. So it's like, again, choose your hard. Do you want to do the hard work of developing the skills you need to be able to create that emotional intelligence, right? To build that levee, or do you want to clean up after the destruction? because I guarantee a lot of you guys, again, in Louisiana know this, like it's probably a lot harder. Some things you can't salvage. Some things you're just straight up rebuilding from scratch. Right? That speaks to a lot of like relationships and a lot of other things that we have potentially just, taken part in partially destroying. Bridges that get burned that are just really hard to build again, right? Just certain things. So I think this all just kind of, again, boils down to like everything, how you think about something and how much life you give it, where you're always giving life to something. So think about it that way. Again, a lot of people like to think they are operating in this like neutral space. You're not. It is very black and white. A lot of people who are like very science minded know that there is no gray in science, right? It's all like mathematical. It's not like 2 times 3 like might equal 6 under the right circumstances. If it was like, no, it like is, right? It's like is or it's not. So this is the same thing. You are giving it life. You are giving life to, you're giving death permission to continue existing, or life, permission to continue existing. So which one? You're either giving life to the things that are killing your dreams or life to the things that are fueling them. Your choice. Seeds or weeds. I like that phrase better than the good wolf or bad wolf because it rhymes. So seeds or weeds. And for those of you guys who really struggle with your mindset, I really, really encourage you guys to get the book Think Like a Monk. It really does. I know a lot of the books I recommend have a lot to do with like business tactics and sales and leadership. So if you're looking one for more like internal work, I would really recommend Think Like a Monk, because it really talks about how to achieve more self-peace and understanding. And it really does lend itself into business and leadership and all of that. But it really is a very, very good book. Especially if we're talking about something to read in regards to mindset. That's one I would recommend, absolutely.
I think I'm gonna order that and read that myself. I've been actually, it's like the 3rd or 4th time I've heard you mention it. I'm like, yes, need to write down in my book, Think Like a Monk. You said something that inspired me a few minutes ago. You were talking about, Courtney, when somebody else says something, we sometimes take it as like they're upset with us. And we just get in that like brain rut of, and that's something that I learned a while ago was, like, my husband comes home aggravated at work and he walks in the door and immediately I'm like, what did I do wrong? What the heck? And my brain just goes right back to it. It's like clockwork every day. And it's like, well, no, my husband's mad because my husband's mad. And that's just what's happening. And I don't have to create a negative space and make that mean anything. When we put that meaning on it and that negative thing, then we actually end up creating problems where there weren't any. Turn off the water. We end up creating those issues when we didn't even, and we make them bigger sometimes based on our thoughts and beliefs of what other people are going through and how we just think it's all about us. It's just our ego. Oh, my kid gave me an attitude because they just don't like me. No, your kid's a teenager and they have an attitude because that's what teenagers have. They have attitude. So your teenager has an attitude because your teenager has an attitude, and how you respond to them is what's going to make the difference in that circumstance. And we can, we can't control, like Courtney said, we can't control what other people do, but we can control how we respond to people. And that is where we hold the power in a circumstance. So when we talk to a customer and they're like, nah, I just can't do that. I mean, I know y'all aren't doing this, but you could be like, you know what, you're missing out. F you. Yeah, go live over there in your ditch with your amazing stuff. Obviously, we're not going to talk to people like that. But I know sometimes we kind of feel like, oh, if only they knew. And, we get in that negative space, and it's the way we respond could then in the future change their viewpoint of, if we left them on a good note and went, okay, hey, no worries. I understand that. And hey, good for you that you have something that works. If you ever change mine, I'd love to help you out. And, and like with me, I practice this at length with my kids. Sorry for the water in the background, but we, you know, it's like they're just negative, 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 crying, whining, negative. And it's like, oh, what's wrong now? What snack do you want now? What's this? What's that? And it's like they're just being what they're being because that's the space they're in and it has nothing to do with you. And as soon as you take you out of the equation and you just start now learning to be in that dance with life and pulling those weeds of that negativity that you have all sprouted in your mind of, oh, my husband hates me every time he walks in the door. He doesn't like me. Oh, my kids have an attitude. They don't care about me. They don't listen to me. Oh, pull that out. These customers, nobody even wants to hear me. And it's just reframing your brain and how you respond and just realizing that people live in the world and they have their own feelings and effects and they respond to their own lives according to whatever they're going through and how they personally feel. And it has absolutely nothing to do with you because we all own our own feelings. Nobody can make you mad. Nobody can they can try and it might work, but you're choosing that anger. You're choosing that negativity. And when you don't give up that negative and you start giving in that positive and growing those positive seeds, you're going to see that just flourish. Then that's when you start practicing that and you get into like an awesome habit of that. That's when you start feeling like untouchable. And you're like, ain't nobody going to get me down, you know, and you're just like, honey, come at me because you're not touching me. And for me, that's made a world of difference. Not thinking everything is about me. I tell it to my kids, not everything is about you. Okay, girl. I know you want 4 sleepovers this weekend, but there's only 2 days on the weekend. And, you know, it's not all about me. You know, we don't have to give it all this energy and drama. We can simply make it as simple as it is. Nope, sorry, you can't go. But maybe one night, you know, when we start reframing our responses and creating a positive circumstance out of other people coming at us negatively, that's when we hold the key to the power of but that's a whole nother conversation. I think that's a huge one. So, and kids are dumping water in the background because we have water fascinations. So I'm gonna drop it there, but that's one of my favorite conversations is learning to communicate with others effectively and how not to have whatever being in their space and hearing people, but not taking that on as your problem. Your problem is not my emergency. So, and I think that's so loud. I think that's really when Courtney's like, yeah, if you're in my inbox, like, hey, you know, to be real, I know it. And sometimes I think for people when they're going through stuff, they think it's like a lack of empathy. Oh, she just doesn't care. Oh, she says that because she just don't have time to deal with me and my little, no, it's that your problem is not her emergency. And that's not going to create any freaking flowers in our garden. That's only going to spread those weeds. And we're plucking those weeds out. So no offense to your negativity, but that's what the cycle that we're trying to break and moving into that positive mindset. But I just want to say that, I'm just now seeing, I tell that to my kids like a bazillion times a day from earlier. So thank you everybody for sharing. I really think everybody really needs to choose the changes that they want to implement into and really just start seeing those areas where maybe you can tweak or change your responses, your thoughts on things. When you see that negative thing pop up, you know, it's just, you literally have to say, nope, not doing it and move on. Kind of like Courtney's like, all right, if you need to talk about it, here's your 5 seconds and then we're moving on. And it's just creating that habit pattern. And it's truly a creation of that. You have to create that like every day, all day long. But it gets to be a habit after a while.
Absolutely. I love that. Thank you, Rachel. She also gave me a good idea as far as next week. Would you guys find it beneficial if we helped walk you guys through some of those conversations? Like if you kind of approached some of those conversations that you either are having or are afraid to have or have had that haven't gone very well, and how we can help you reframe it or how we can help you kind of present it in a way that's, I don't know, just learning effective communication based on whether it's customers, a spouse, a parent, whatever, if it's affecting your ability to be fully and mindfully present in your business. I know that that's something that a lot of people struggle with. I know that's one thing that I help a lot of people with is this how to say stuff when it comes to using those I statements and like Rachel said, taking yourself out of the equation and really just kind of helping you communicate those emotions or communicate exactly the things that you're looking for or the things that you need. I don't know, would that be helpful for you guys? Because like she said, she said something and I was like, ooh, that's a good topic for next week, but only if people would find it beneficial. So let me know in the chat, would you guys find that beneficial? You can also say no, because again, I'm taking myself out of the equation. Like, if you say no, it's not a reflection of I hate Courtney. It's just that you don't want it. So, okay, so I'm seeing yes. Okay, cool. Well, we can do something like that next week where we can help you guys reframe some of the things that you're thinking so that you can say it in a more effective way that really brings about better communication and listening. And because I think half the reason why we suck at communication is because people speak to be heard instead of to listen. So I think that leads to a lot of issues. And people forget the real reason why they're communicating, which is to find the solution to a problem. But I think more so people are just like want to be heard. And then when two people are doing that, they're just like beating their heads against a wall. So I think sometimes learning the reframing, but how to take it from here and like bring it here. There we go. Yeah, versus you versus me, like it's just kind of like a lot of that. So if you guys find that helpful, we can definitely do that next week. Does that sound good, ladies? Krista and Rachel, cool. Awesome. Well, we've kept you guys on a little bit longer, but we also still have Inspiration Zoom after this. So we will go ahead and hop back on for that in 5 minutes. I was gonna say we should just, I guess, leave it open, but we have to close the record, like stop the recording and then do it again. So we might as well just do that if Haley is still in here. I don't know if Haley's still in here, but you guys can take a break and then come back if you need to. I don't think she's in here. Oh, there she is. Perfect.
I'm here.